Hi guys, my name is Shannon, and today I'm going to be telling you all about the time my grandma accused me of being addicted to porn. Yeah, that's literally what I'm doing today. That's how I'm spending my time. So if that's something that you are interested in listening to, keep a-watching. So before I start, I do just want to talk about the piece I'm working on. It's all just marker, Sharpie, all of that, and it's just a girl smoking a cigarette while wearing her pasties and her fur and just kind of looking really cool. There's not necessarily a meaning behind it. If I'm being really honest, I mostly drew it because I thought it would be really funny to have this story time about me being accused of being this sexual deviant, when the reality is, now that I've grown up, I just draw that shit constantly and I feel nothing for it. So with that underway, let's get it going. Okay, so just to preface this story time, I think it's really important to know that in middle school, I was a big nerd. From 5th grade up until 8th grade, I had very few friends. I peaked in 8th grade when I had, I think, 4 friends, and then they had boyfriends who were kind of forced to hang out with me. But, throughout middle school to elementary school, or whatever it's called, I had very few friends. But what I did have was an obsession with anime. And an obsession with fan fiction. I had binders full of fan fiction, and there was fluff, there was smut, there was everything. It was poorly written, it was amazingly written. I could not stop reading Naruto fan fiction. Specifically, Naruto fan fiction about Sakura. She was my favorite. Still is my favorite. I was obsessive over her. But I was also super duper paranoid. Super freaking duper paranoid. It wasn't cute. Because I had one binder that was my go-to binder. That was what I kept with me at all times. It was always in my backpack. I brought it with me essentially everywhere. And if I had a spare moment, I would open it up and I would just start reading it. And I remember my mom questioned it a little bit. And I just said, no, I'm reading notes from class. But it was really bad fan fiction, and it was my favorite ones. Then I gave my friend Chelsea a spare binder, so in case something happened to the first binder, in case I went to school and my first binder got confiscated and they were like, oh my god, you're reading inappropriate things, you can't have that. In case that happened, in case one of the people who would take a lot of my shit took it and threw it away, because that happened with a lot of my earlier sketchbooks. But in case someone just got rid of it, I would always have a spare. And then I had my third spare, which never left my locker, which was, again, in case something happened to the first or second one, I would always have my fan fictions. Not to mention, they were always bookmarked on the family computer. But, they had inconspicuous names on them. Super inconspicuous. No one would be able to find them. That is not to mention that I also had random stashes of fanfiction throughout my bedroom. I had a couple of them under my mattress, and I had one in my closet in a shoebox. And that one that one was the most inappropriate. That one I was I hope no one ever finds it. Later on, my mom did find it. She picked me up from 8th grade basketball practice once and confronted me as if I had a drug problem. But she picked me up in this crazy mood and was just I found your stash, Shannon. At which point, I didn't know really what to say because I don't know what the fuck. Like, I was a really clean kid. Fan fiction was like all I did. So when she said I found your stash, I was like, no, you didn't. But the point of me saying all of that was to emphasize I loved fan fiction more than anything else in the world. And I was super paranoid about it. Like, obsessively paranoid. So there was one weekend I had to stay at my grandma's house. And my grandma is amazing. She's a very lovely woman. She's very charming, but she's also very, I guess a good word is conservative with her values. Well, my grandma's a grandma. You don't say dumb shit around my grandma. When you leave the house, you can cuss and swear all you like. But if you go over to my grandma's house, it's immediately like, you show your respect. She's a very lovely lady. And because of that, my grandma hasn't really adapted to modern technology. When I went over to her house with my sister for the weekend, essentially we had a TV and we had the computer, but the computer runs very slow and the computer has like no programs that modern computers should have. Like, there's no antivirus protection, there's no pop-up blocker, it's all just, it's a computer, it connects to the internet via dial-up, have at it. So the first day, and again, I'm only staying at my grandma's house for 2 days. The first day I'm there, she has to take my sister all over town, they have to do all these things, because my sister in high school had a very active academic career. She was always doing a mock trial or cross country. She always had a sport or something to do. I, on the other hand, like, if I have time off or if I don't have to do something, I'm not going to. But she spent the whole day, like, running my sister all across town, so I had, like, the whole day to myself. So, because I'm obsessed with fanfiction, I went on her very old computer and went on fanfiction.net. Now, this is like 2007, and there's a shit ton of pop-ups. Like, it was crazy. Like, the amount of pop-ups I got that day supersedes all the pop-ups I ever got. And if you follow me on Instagram, like, you can tell I've watched some shit because my hashtag is Amber1ButtSlut. But, like, I think just the amount of pop-ups that came up this day was more eye-opening than the sex talk I had. Because there was, like, tentacle stuff, I learned about fleshlights, and then there was these pop-ups that were girls that, like, from Live Jasmine, who were like, oh, are you really gonna look at porn by yourself? Don't you wanna talk to me, a real woman? Oh, I'm sitting here waiting for you to log on. Don't you wanna fuck me? That's my porn voice. I have the shittiest porn voice. Okay, that was weird. But, again, my drug essentially was fanfictions about Sakura Haruno from Naruto, and I was going to read them, and so I essentially just minimized everything. Every time I would interact with, like, a page that was porn, it did the thing of getting worse and worse, and then you have 2 more screens, so I just minimized everything except for fanfiction.net. And I went about my way. I read, like, 16 hours of fanfiction. That is hyperbolic. I read, like, a couple hours of fanfiction, and then my grandma and my sister got back, and I was like, cool. They're back, this is fine. I'm gonna go and fucking hang out with my sister now. Now, again, I mentioned having my, like, fear of people taking my stash away and fear of, like, people reading it or seeing it and judging it. So I deleted my fanfiction.net history, and I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, no one should know that I was on fanfiction.net. That's silly. I also had, like, YouTube up at, like, the very beginning, like, Smosh era YouTube. So I had that kind of going for me. And also, just so people know, I wasn't, it sounds weird, but I wasn't reading like smut. Because I still was like, I'm in my grandma's house, I'm going to keep it from like rated T and below. I wasn't going full, like I wasn't going to read or watch porn in my grandma's house. What the fuck? Like, who would watch porn in your grandma's house? That's fucking weird. But in my head, I didn't think about the pop-up. When I deleted the fanfiction history, I was like, that's fine. Fucking who's gonna give a shit about, like, whatever else is up? Because I didn't think about it. I didn't think that there was all this porn up there, and I wasn't, like, I'm a dumb kid. Well, then it got kind of weird. Because the next day, I remember waking up and being really stoked because I didn't have to wake up early for anything, and I got up, and my grandma and my uncle are in the computer room. And I was like, oh, he's probably helping her install something. My uncle has always been like the tech whiz of the family, and so I was just like, they're installing something, whatever. But I remember I went in and I opened the door, and they both gave me like this look, like, we know what you did. And like, they were like, it was kind of like a withering stare. They just kind of looked at me. I was like, oh, I guess you're on the computer. Let me know when you're done. Like, little blonde-haired baby Shannon was just like, let me know, guys. I'll be out here. So they stayed in the computer room for like 2 hours. And it was weird because my grandma doesn't compute. Like I said, my grandma doesn't adapt to like the modern technology. And she has never adapted to modern technology. So she's sitting there in front of a computer for 2 hours. And I'm just kind of like, that's pretty weird. I wonder what her and Uncle Dennis are doing. But then 2 hours later, she comes out, and my uncle leaves. So my grandma comes out, my uncle leaves, and she's kind of standing in front of me and my sister in front of the TV, and she's like, you guys need to turn this off. Just turn it off. And I'm like, uh-oh, what is my mom gonna do? Because she seems upset. And so my sister turns it off, and she's still standing kind of in front of the TV, and she's looking at me. And at this point, I figured something's wrong. I didn't figure it was the fan fiction because I had deleted it. I thought my uncle coming over to look at the computer was strange, but for some reason it didn't like connect in my head. Also, I'm a dumb kid, so it didn't connect in my head. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is weird. My grandma looks upset with me. I don't know what happened. My sister is looking at me like, what the fuck did you do? And I'm just kind of sitting there like, I don't know, guys. What did I do? And so the first thing she says after she tells us to turn the TV off is, well, Shannon, what do you have to say for yourself? Which is a weird question to start with. Because, just so we're super clear, I'm a dick. If you confront me and I don't know what we're talking about, I'm going to take the moment to be funny. Or, like, in my head, be funny. So it's like, love and respect my grandma, but if you're going to start with, like, what do you have to say for yourself without lining up what it is we're talking about, I'm just going to be an asshole. And so, after like a beat or two, she's just standing there looking at me, the question lingering in the air, and all I said was, hi, Mom? And she didn't like that, because that is rude. And my grandma just kind of like threw her hands up in the air and was just like, you know what, Shannon, just go to your room. So I go to the room, and I sit there, and my grandma's she's a very small woman, but she's very intimidating, so I don't want to, like, push my boundaries too much. I know I was a dick, but I was sitting there like, she's mad, she's in charge, my parents are coming to get me in a couple hours, I'm sure she's going to tell them what I did, and at that point, I'll know what I did. Because again, in my head, I was like, I deleted the fan fiction. There's no problem here. There's nothing wrong here. I'm also getting nervous because my grandma's intimidating, but my dad can actually be scary. So I'm like, I hope I didn't fuck up too bad. I hope it's just like, I don't know. I used the wrong bathroom. I don't know. I was just thinking like, I hope she's mad because I didn't make my bed. I don't know. Because of the list of things I've done that weekend, fanfiction was like not even in my head. Because as far as I was concerned, I was like an actual angel that whole weekend. Because I got in no one's way. I did so well that weekend. Cut to 2 hours later, and my mom comes to pick me and my sister up. And then at that point, I hear my mom pulling up, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to be allowed out of the room. And so my grandma says I can come out. She sits me down on her kitchen table. She tells my mom she has something that we need to talk about. And it's very dramatic. She's like, we need to talk about what Shannon did. And I still don't know what I did. So my mom looks at me like, the fuck did you do to my mom? And I'm sitting there looking back at my mom like, I don't know yet, so I can't give you any hints. My grandma just says the best thing I've ever heard come out of anyone's mouth ever. And it's just so good because it's my grandma who said it. She looks my mom straight in the eye, and like tensions filled the room. I'm about to find out why I'm in trouble. She looks at my mom and says, Shannon spent all day looking at porn. Nothing I've done since that moment has ever been like quite as funny, because my southern belle of a grandma, my grandma who I've never heard cuss ever, just referenced pornography. Like, she referenced two people doing it, and it was just so good. And she, like, my grandma thought I had looked at hardcore porn, and that was so fantastical in my head, because it was like, why, what? Just, what? Okay, that's fine. And, like, she thought I did, which is, like, it's funny. That's just fucking funny. And she started to explain to my mom exactly how it happened, as if, like, you know, I was taking care of Jennifer. I was out yesterday with Jennifer, and I came home, and then Shannon had been on the computer all day. And this is what was on the computer all day. And she, like, was telling her I spent all day. She was like, we have the logs. We have the history logs, Catherine. And from this time to this time, she was on these sites. And I remember looking at my mom, because I straight up just fucking bust up laughing. I couldn't handle it. It was like one of those moments where you feel like you get taken out of your body and you're just watching everything happen. It was a total out of body experience. But I remember when I came back into my body, looking at my mom, and she was looking back at me, and she knows I'm a dick. She's my fucking mom. So she's looking at me like, fucking, god damn it, Shannon. And so I look at them and I'm like, I wasn't looking at porn, but I also didn't want to tell them I was looking at fan fiction. So I was just like, I wasn't looking at porn. It was just pop-ups it was just pop-ups. But, like, the moment I said pop-ups, I think I was in the clear with my mom, because my mom would use the computer sometimes at my grandma's house, and it's the same thing. Like, there were hot singles in her area as well that wanted to hook up with my mom. But, like, my mom kind of figured it wasn't Shannon. Shannon wasn't looking at that porn. It's fine. But my grandma, straight up, no matter what my mom said, and was like, I've used your computer. I've had those pop-ups too. I've used it. I've had this too. My grandma didn't believe her. And, like, she was like, fighting with my mom. Like, no, Shannon was looking at porn. Me and Dennis went to some of these pages, and they weren't pop-ups. Which means, guys, my beautiful, sweet, tiny, innocent grandma went to porn sites with my uncle and saw hentai, like weird fucking porn. And they looked at it and were just like, this is what Shannon's into, obviously. Shannon is watching this fucking porn. My tiny, adorable, okay, I need to not clap, I need to not do that, but my tiny, adorable, God-fearing fucking grandma looked at hardcore pornography with my uncle and came to the conclusion that I watched it. Which, again, like, that is fucking insane. Like, what? I was reading bad Naruto fanfiction, I'll admit that now. I was reading fanfiction that entire day. But, like, oh, God. Oh, my God. So, we, like, got up and left, and my mom was really cool about it, and my sister thought it was fucking hilarious. I still, like, to this day, I think about that, and I think about if my grandma still thinks I actually spent 5 to 6 hours just looking at porn at her house. And I don't know. Okay, so if any of y'all liked this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, leave something vicious in the comments and read me for filth. I love it. Just tear me down. Let me know that Naruto fanfiction is great or horrible. I don't really care. Just read me. Fucking read me. Whatever you want to do, I support you and I'll love it. But anyway, I am going to be putting out more videos on here really soon. So if you're inclined to, subscribe. And with that, I am out of here. Later, guys.